Welcome to Panelism, a podcast where we talk about the comics and graphic novels we're reading. I'm Todd A.
I'm Taylor Trask.
Good evening, Taylor.
Yes, it is a good evening.
I always feel weird acknowledging the time of day.
Well, I mean, it's for those listening. I'm sure there's some curiosity if you're driving, to and fro your day to day. We are recording this a week before Thanksgiving, so
Yes,
there's that to come, and everything else after that. Black Friday shopping and I don't know. You tell me this as a gentleman of hitting midlife. Does Christmas and Thanksgiving mean anything to you still? Like, do you still get sort of like, oh yay, here it is again, or does it feel more like one more lap around the merry-go-round, I guess?
Well, first of all, let me thank you so much for couching that in how I might feel as an aging gentleman. I mean, there is kind of a thing that's that changes where I just like that it's kind of like family time.
Okay.
And fortunately, when my parents are with me in California, we just generally eschew like the traditional Thanksgiving dinner. My dad's not big on like a turkey meal. So we usually go out and go somewhere where he can get fish. And often my mom and I will have traditional dinner, but we might not if it's, there's something else on the menu. And that's kind of a cool thing. I like deconstructing that tradition.
Interesting.
I don't like food-based holidays. I don't.
Are there other food-based holidays besides? I mean, Halloween, kind of, I guess.
I mean, I would say, Thanksgiving is the main one.
Of course.
I guess I think of like Easter, where it's like there's this pressure sometimes to have an Easter dinner. Or something, which is always very weird to me. I guess the thing with Thanksgiving too is when I don't know. It's another holiday that it's or event that sticks out where I also have this weird impression of when I went to a vegetarian Thanksgiving, which like Kabbalah Monster, bless them, is wonderful, but it was one of those perfect examples of vegetarians trying to make tofu look like the real meat, which is that's always sort of offensive to me. Like, just have tofu. It doesn't need to look or try to taste like a turkey. That's not.
You made this choice. Stop torturing yourself.
Like, it wouldn't tofu be much better if you just enjoyed the taste of it or something, and you didn't try to make it into a fake meat. And especially because I guess I thought like, oh, we're going to be liberated from all the Thanksgiving cliches, and it was like, nope, we're just doubling down on them.
We have to remind it's almost like people having Thanksgiving on Mars. Like, we have to try to make it as realistic as Earth Thanksgiving as possible. Like, but you're on Mars. You can start a new Thanksgiving. Like, you don't even have to have it. Do something completely new. And it's like, nope. We got to do it just like we did back in Hoboken. We got to have everything exactly. Dad's got to pass out at 2.
It's such a weird thing because I remember when my brother was in Italy one Thanksgiving, and he and his fellow exchange students tried to gather all the materials to make a traditional American Thanksgiving, which may have just sort of been a funny art project they were doing, because my brother had a real hard time finding the exact right whatever it is that you make cornbread with, corn meal that's not sweetened or leavened or whatever it is. And I don't know. And when I lived in London, like, we had Canadians in our flat and Americans, so we split the difference and did like a Canadian American Thanksgiving, and same thing of like we had to go find all these traditional foods. Why? They're not like exotic or anything.
That's the weirdest part. Canadians have their Thanksgiving like 2 whole months early. They're just like, no, we're gonna get it out of the way before it gets too cold, and then we're gonna get on with hockey and everything else. Sorry,
go ahead. Let's get off the Thanksgiving subject.
I was just going to say, what are we really doing here today, Todd? We're reviewing books.
Yes.
And in this particular episode, it is one of your books.
Yes. So it's a book that I didn't select so much as it was selected for me. If you've been listening for the past few episodes, you know that I'm in a comic book and graphic novel book club, which I joined over the summer and have really enjoyed.
Tell them what it's called. Who's it? Tell more.
It's called It's called Comics Bang.
Comics Bang.
It's what is that? yeah, it's, comics, and then BANG is books and graphic novels.
Oh, nice. And that's the name of the shop where this occurs?
Graphics or something? No. That's just the name of this. It's it's run out of Comics Unlimited in Westminster or Huntington Beach, however you want to, they're right on the line there. Yeah, and it's really enjoyable. And so once a month we get together and we just chat about the book. It's real easy going. And I especially like that the book gets picked for me, and then I don't, we vote each time. And with the exception of Descender, which I had read, but then went back and revisited and ended up enjoying it and getting a new impression on it. I don't think I've really, I maybe have been aware of a book, but it wasn't something that I was currently reading or had any exposure to. And this book is one of those where I had seen several single issues on the shelf, was very intrigued by it, picked them up, kind of flipped through, and thought that it might fall in a genre like Chew or Axe Cop that I kind of had covered with another title. Like, do I really need another funny book? And it turns out, yes, I definitely needed this book.
I know the title, but I want you to drag it out as long as you possibly can, because it's.
I don't know how to
listening. Hear the title, you'll understand the just insanity of what you're about to get into. And no, it's not. What is that? Viking Ninja.
Cowboy Ninja Viking. That did spring to mind though when I saw this, because of this quote on the back from an IGN review, which is that this book is as wonderfully wild as it is completely literal. And I also remember many years ago when that Walk Hard movie came out, and
oh yeah,
oh my god, what's his name? The actor's name just totally walked out of my head. But I just want to call him Dewey.
Dewey, yeah, no, you're right. It's John C. Reilly. There we go.
Yes, and he interviewed. He was describing the movie, and he said the whole concept of it is there's no subtext. Whatever you think would just be subtext, they just say. That's just it's just text. Yeah. So yeah, this is a wonderfully literate book. It's very funny, and it is. Sorry, I said literate. I meant literal. It is literal. Like I'm going to tell you the title, and you're going to know exactly what this is about, with possibly one question. The title is Shirtless Bear Fighter, and I can anticipate that your question might be: is this a bear who fights, or is it a man who fights bears? It is indeed a man who fights bears.
So it's not like Pooh Bear running around. He's ripped it off. He's all in now.
Yeah, and he does not. I mean, this may come as a surprise, but he does not wear a shirt.
No.
And for a good, 20, 30 pages or something, he doesn't wear any pants.
Oh.
And they just have a little pixelated dong hanging between his legs. Well, sorry, I shouldn't say little. It goes down to about his knee. So,
of course.
But I'll tell you, I'd seen it, I'd picked it up. I was familiar with the look of it, and I guess maybe some of the tone. I had no idea where this was going, and didn't know if it was, going to develop into something more. I was pleasantly shocked when I opened it up, and there's an introduction to it written by Duncan Jones.
Wow, Baby Bowie himself.
Yes, the director of Moon and many other creepy movies, right? What else has he done? Anyway.
Oh, got World of Warcraft. But he's David Bowie's kid. So
he did World of Warcraft?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. And he, it's just fun to see that, like, Duncan Jones writes this great introduction and also calls out Axe Cop in it, which is clearly like a sibling book to this. But this doesn't have any novelty hook to it. Like, it was not written by a kid. It wasn't, invented by. That's the whole premise of Axe Cop is a 5-year-old would tell these stories to his brother, who was a professional comic book artist, and so the brothers started drawing these as comics, and so they look like any comic you would find on a shelf, but the stories are just crazy insane because a 5-year-old has made them up. This is it's like adults. Yeah, and the cartoon is voiced by Ron Swanson.
Nick Offerman. There we go.
And this is Shirtless Bear Fighter is, it is an adult project. And I think, and definitely the humor is more adult. This is not, like for kids. It's for adults who want to read something silly. Scotty Young is quoted on the back. So that, the writer artist of I hate fairyland, likes this, that should probably place you in the same, you should land in the same vicinity there. And it's definitely like, it is literal in that hilarious way of, they don't even have to really write a joke because they can just tell you in these very, very literal terms. And that's what makes it funny. The Shirtless Bear Fighter is never identified. He's totally identified. His name is Shirtless. That's what we call him. That is what everyone calls him in the book. There is actually one character that he meets, Susie Silva, and her role, in addition to like some other stuff, is, is sort of pointing out when something is absurd. So it opens up, there's a bear attack in the city. The city is named Major City. So there's a bear attack in Major City, and this obviously, worries the authorities. So they send this special task force, which I guess is like FBI or something. Although I can't remember if they're identified, but it's an agent named Burke who knows Shirtless and Silva in a helicopter. They fly out into the woods. They find Shirtless. He's totally naked. They offer him I guess you would call it like, a payment to go fight these bears for them in the city, in the Major City.
So at this point, at this point, he's already he's got a vendetta against bears, right?
So yes, it opens up. You do not understand what the vendetta is, what his relationship to the bears is, and they make him an offer to come work for them. He doesn't. He says, no, I don't need any money. I live out here in the woods, and they say it's not money, it's a lifetime supply of flapjacks and 100% pure maple syrup.
Oh my God.
And in his very literal way, he takes a stack of flapjacks out and flips through them like it's a wad of cash.
Like a wad of cash, yeah.
And then he takes some maple syrup and rubs it on his gums like he's testing the potency of cocaine or something. And he turns him down. And so they eventually, there's like another attack. There's some other stuff. He gets drawn into this fight. And so then through this conflict, we learn this backstory of him, which is that he was actually raised by bears.
Okay.
In the woods.
This is Mowgli gone wrong then. This is like.
Yes. And you know what? I forgot to read the back cover. I should have. The back cover will lay all this out for you. Let me tell you what that is. Right. After being betrayed by the bears that raised him, the legendary Shirtless Bear Fighter wanders the forest he's sworn to protect, fist-fighting bears, eating flapjacks, and being the angriest man the world has ever known. When wild-eyed, super strong bears attack the citizens of Major City, Shirtless ventures into the human world to do what he does best, punch those bears in the face. But all is not as it seems. Someone is manipulating Shirtless, and only by confronting the demons of his past can Shirtless hope to save his future. That's in contrast to the last couple books where I've read the back cover. That is exactly what happens.
I love it. I almost wanted you to say Shirtless Bear Fighter TM, because I just feel like having just going that extra mile would have probably been completely appropriate for this book if they wanted to. Yeah,
it's it's definitely Mr. Bear Fighter. It's a very formal name, but it. I guess once you set up that humor, it all is going to kind of pivot on that. It's told with all the beats of a superhero or any other kind of action movie. I mean, probably like just flashed in my head that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson might be amazing at this. I don't know that he can grow the necessary beard.
I was going to ask at some point during this, I was going to ask you, is it weird to say like, I'm waiting for the movie with John Hamm as Shirtless Bear Fighter? Does he need to be a big burly?
Not big enough.
Okay.
This man is almost bear sized,
Got it. Okay.
Anyway, it hits all those beats of like an action movie or a superhero movie. And so because of that, I think that obviously that adds to the humor. They're not exactly trying to, the way they're deconstructing those tropes is just by having it be a shirtless bear fighter who literally fights bears. It's not, there's no different layer to it. There's no other subtext there. It's just hitting the beats that you would normally hit in anything like that with this absurd premise.
Let me interrupt.
Yeah.
you ever find out in this? Because you were talking about volume 1, or is the whole thing one story start to finish that's over? There's no volume 2.
It is one story start to finish. It leaves an opening at the end, but the main conflict is all wrapped up.
Do we ever find out why he is angry at bears? Like,
yes, we do.
We do. Okay.
So, and he recounts that to Silva at a certain time about. We do see this like flashback. So he has a bear family, he has Papa Bear and Mama Bear and Brother Bear, and they raised him. He
killed Goldilocks for his bar mitzvah. He's like, you must kill this girl, and then you are one of us.
That would be that's a Scotty Young twist for sure. I'm trying not to give away any spoiler. I don't think it's a spoiler because we see this scene where a person that he cares about, and we don't really know the relationship. We just know there is a human dead in the woods, murdered by bears.
Okay. And
so Shirtless feels like, the bears have turned on me. They've betrayed me. And I thought they accepted me as a human and other humankind, but they're just going to be bears. I can't do anything about it. So he goes and trains, and then he goes back to the woods to protect it because he swore Papa Bear that he would protect the woods. But he's also very angry about this event and this dead human girl. And so he is, punching bears. And when he punches a bear, the onomatopoetic sound that appears is bear punch. The big comic book explosion is not pow or wham or anything. So
is that when he punches anything or just bears?
Just bears.
Okay.
So like if he misses like a couple times, he'll like punch him and the bear will stop his hand or something and it'll be like bear puh. Won't get it all out. But there are these layers to it. I mean, like I said, it's not like Axe Cop is so weird because it totally pulls the form apart because this kid is making it up. And there's great behind the scenes stuff where Ethan, the artist, is telling his younger brother when they're making them, like you've got to have kind of a story, it's got to kind of go somewhere or something. And it proceeds sort of like a video game, but it doesn't, it doesn't really necessarily have all the right beats to it. Stuff will just happen and it totally pulls the story apart. And it's really funny because you can't predict what a 10-year-old would say in those things,
I think I actually wrote something like that in 5th grade.
Right.
I remember writing like a book that I based almost entirely on a dream I had that I'm like, that would make a great story. And I kind of wrote this, 30-page book that looking back was, people must have thought I was just like a surrealist, savant or something. Because it's like, none of this is linear at all.
Exactly. The closest peek I got to how that Boy Genius works is on an Axe Cop panel for the TV show. Malachi, who was then about like 8 years old, he from the stage directed cosplayers to fight each other in the audience, and he like narrated it.
Oh, geez.
It was.
Wow,
I mean,
power went to that kid's head.
It was like staged. No. It was like an event. They were like, okay, we're gonna do.
You shall dance for me now, Papa.
No, but it was totally that. To entertain me. But it's it pulls it apart. And Shirtless Bear Fighter, you're gonna hit the same things. Like as part of this new conflict where the bears are going into the cities. Shirtless leaves the woods, so he leaves it unprotected, but then he finds that they are, these bears, there's something in their eyes, and he knows of this magician called the Hillbilly Warlock, who's like part pig.
Okay, that's that thing that's on the cover that looks like it's a little master looking thing. Okay.
Yeah. And sort of like dressed like a devil, and he's a pig with all these pig teats, and he makes this magic bacon that can sort of allow him to control other beings. And then there is a industrialist that we meet who I thought I didn't even understand the depth of this joke when I first opened the book, because there's a picture of a bear, like an icon of a bear wiping its ass on some toilet paper, and I thought it was a just a little tiny aside joke like that commercial where the bears, what is that, Charmin or whatever, where the bears go out in the woods with the roll of toilet paper. They've pitched an entire line of toilet paper based on the joke, does a bear shit in the woods? Anyway, I mean, this really happened in real life, so it's happening here in the comic. And that guy's name is Jackson Logger, and he wants to clear cut this forest because he wants to use the trees to make his toilet paper, and he wants to like put a bigger, toilet paper factory out there or whatever. And he's very upset that he's been Shirtless has been resisting this all along. So, you get these little like sort of detective clues of like, is it Hillbilly Warlock that's manipulating him, or has Jackson Logger made a deal with Hillbilly, or in somehow using that magic? And we get deeper and deeper, and there's sort of Jackson Logger's toilet paper base is I don't even know what to call it. What is it?
Just hearing these sentences constructed, try to describe it is amazing.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember, is it Happy Wipes or Fuzzy Wipes or something? I think it's Fuzzy Wipes. So, when they go into that factory, it sort of has all the trappings of like an evil villain lair, and there's bears guarding him at that point, and you're thinking like, what's going on? Whose side are they really on? And then there's the dynamic between Shirtless and Brother Bear, whom he grew up with, but they seem, they definitely have a conflict of their own. And it really is everything that back cover says. Like, it is only by confronting the demons of his past can Shirtless hope to save the future. So totally enjoyable. I don't know. I'm afraid to ramble too long because it is just so super funny. I don't want to spoil anything. I will tell you that Shirtless does lose his powers at one point, and he is made weak, and he cannot fight off what is happening to him, and he's able to be captured and tied up, incapacitated very, very easily. And Silva, when she finds him, is like, what in the hell is going on? Like, how are you so weak? And it's because his kryptonite is a shirt.
Oh, geez.
Put him in a shirt.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then
that's amazing.
So, when you and I have a little outline, and I wanted to make sure to hit these major themes, which I wrote down as bears. I think I've covered that. Lack of shirts, definitely a theme. And then pooping, which is where Jackson Logger comes in, because he doesn't just make fuzzy wipes. Like, that toilet paper is really, it's a whole lifestyle for him.
I see.
Yeah, I don't want to describe it too much, but there is like a mech that he rides in that looks like a toilet. And I won't get into any details about that, but he's very deuce focused,
Let's talk about the writer and illustrator, because I in doing some little research beforehand noticed head writer is Jody Lehoop, or Lehoop. I think is how you pronounce it. I don't know. I'm familiar with them via, I don't know if it's a he or she, so I have to say them or whatever.
It is a he.
It is a he.
Yes.
I'm not familiar with him before this, but I came to know him from The Weatherman, which is a series that's currently ongoing. I'm up to issue 3 on that. Yeah. And that's got some interesting, crazy, sort of surrealist things going on too. So, completely unleashed on this title. I can't even imagine, where he goes. And then the artist, Sebastian Gerner.
Well, yeah, actually, he is Sebastian is the co-writer, and then Nil Vendrell is the artist. And yeah, Sebastian,
Image, of course.
Yeah, and Sebastian was on Southern Bastards and Deadly Class.
Oh, okay, that's why this reminds me of Southern Bastards. I couldn't quite figure out what the thing was. That okay? Now it all makes sense.
Yeah, it's that's the team. Nil Vendrell. There's not a lot of comic work listed at the in his credits page. There's a lot of just illustration work, and it says various web comics and fanzines. So I don't know that we would recognize him from something else. It's not. I don't know. It's comic booky in like the best sense for me. Like, it definitely looks like a comic book, but I can see that the art might be sort of Venture Brothers-ish.
Oh yeah, great.
Yeah, it's exaggerated in those ways. With the very like angled chins and the sort of overemphasized heroic looks, it's like when Shirtless walks out of the woods for the first time without a shirt on and without any pants on, and he's just cut, and it's the hair everywhere, and it's that over stylized kind of look. It's not superhero-y, but it's not goofy or cartoony or anything like that. So yeah, I really love the art, and I think that helps sell it because it's not necessarily as quirky or something. Even something like Chew has such a unique art style to it, and a quirky art style that you don't necessarily flip through Chew and know exactly where it sort of falls in the genre, and what the art doesn't necessarily communicate the jokes to you right away. Like the jokes are sort of buried in the art. But this just plays it straight. I mean, it's like everything. It's just no subtext, totally literal.
I would like to direct you, by the way, to Shirtless Bear Fighter #4, the variant cover. I am purchasing a copy right now as we speak. I don't even want to describe it. Just Google it. You won't be sorry. Just have that in your JPEG collection somewhere, because it is masterful.
Now you did call it the variant cover, right?
It's the cover B variant for issue 4. It's him with some attacking pandas. That's all I'll say. That I'm sure has nothing to do with the book.
Oh, the cover collection at the end is awesome. There's one by Scotty Young, which is the baby Shirtless, I guess punching his first bear, and he has a tiny little pixelated penis in that one. There's a really great one from Rob Momartz. I think that's how you pronounce his name, but he's I've just seen his work around, and it's a great, very Rob Liefeld, like over muscled Shirtless. And then there's just an awesome, like Playgirl, Burt Reynolds style. There's Shirtless lying across a bearskin rug, totally nude. Just very hairy. And that was one of the variant covers.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Those are all the extras we get at the end, are the covers. And that's fine with me, honestly. Like, it was an enjoyable gallery to go through, but I didn't feel like it needed anything else. I would say all those other things I've mentioned, that's what I would recommend this. Like, if you like Axe Cop, if you like Venture Brothers, if you like Chew, this is
going
to fit perfectly in there. And see, I don't know anything about Southern Bastards. Is it funny like this?
Not really, but it's sensational. It's got a lot of just by my glancing at some of the sample art and just hearing you talk, there's a sensational kind of DNA in both of these that I think you'll appreciate.
Yeah, I just found that cover you're talking about, the one that looks like the old pulp fiction novel. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that one is amazing.
That I just press purchase. That will be in my possession soon, because I've started collecting variant covers that I really, really dig. Most of them I think are Image. There's a couple that aren't, but like I may assemble that somehow, because some of these variant covers are too good to not like. Image should put out a hardcover book or something, because they're just brilliant.
Well, if as if I need to say it, this checks all my boxes. The story is wrapped up in one volume. I like the art. I like the writing. Like, it's funny. There's action in it. I really do like, especially after the last couple of books you and I have discussed, I like that it just sort of hits the beats, and goes through the story, that it's just wild, but there's nothing like it's just the plot. This is a Fast and Furious, or any movie that The Rock would be in, or it's very much like that, except maybe Skyscraper. I just watched that, but it's it just hits all the right notes, and it is very they do a good job when Silva calls out the absurdity of the situation. I think it works for him. Like, a couple times, it's sort of weird to, almost breaks the fourth wall. She's not addressing the reader, but Burke, the grizzled FBI agent, will say something like, it reminds me of being back in Nam. And she's like, wait, how old are you?
Oh yeah.
And then he'll say, like, back in the War of Northern Aggression, we had this. And she's like, wait, now that's impossible. And so she's just sort of in the marginalia saying those things. Yeah, it's, I don't know. It's all just amusing, and I love that it's a comic book. I can't really tell you if I would like it if it were any other kind of media. But this is great. And I do have the physical copy. We always talk about that, but I don't see any reason why you wouldn't enjoy this just as much in the digital copy.
Excellent.
So, although, as you point out, those variant covers are amazing. And
I'm telling you,
definitely worth tracking them out. There's only 5 issues, so you could. I mean, it's affordable. You could just go grab these. These 5 issues.
I did the variants for Huck.
Those were crazy.
Because each one of those were a riff off of a famous 80s movie poster. Yeah. And so just having those was amazing. And the Huck story is great too, but just that when I saw those variants, I'm like, I need to have those. It's kind of where it started, because then I saw there was a couple Wicked and Divine variants that were really, really good. Again, Image should just put out a hardcover, annual hardcover, just volume of variants. And God, that would be a great thing to have on the shelf.
Yeah, and especially when a series wraps up like this, I agree. Just do the because one thing you and I point out a lot is with Image is they're so great to jump into a title, because generally volume 1 is always $9.99. Yeah, that's honestly the biggest clue to me that they're not going to continue Shirtless Bear Fighter, because this volume was $16.99. Which just makes me think nope, that's a one shot. Yeah. But I don't know that I would go back and buy a second copy of it, but it is so good that if I didn't already own a collected edition, I might buy a hardcover that had all of the art in it, Ooh, I would like all that kind of stuff. And I think I Hate Fairyland would benefit from something like that too, just because that art is so zany. I would love to see all the sketches and everything.
The copy of I Hate Fairyland I have is the hardcover storybook version of volumes 1 and 2. And I actually... It's interesting because I had volumes 1 and 2 as trade paperbacks, and I traded those in and then got this hardcover volume, which just as a physical artifact fits the story for I Hate Fairyland so much more. It would almost be amazing if they put out a limited edition, almost made out of the cover is twigs and leaves, and just make it really naturey, on hemp paper, and just really make it as crazy and naturey and interesting as possible. That Image has, and there'd probably be only a small loyal group of us that would buy all that shit, but God, we'd buy all that shit. They could do production runs that would. I know it's almost Rachel would be you need to find a storage unit for all this. You can't have it here. It would be crazy.
It's almost one of those things that begs to for the series to continue so it could develop that fan base. But I'm happy with the way it wrapped up, and it's just.
One quick thing I wanted to do before we sign off is just acknowledge the fact that this is the week Stan Lee passed away, 95 years old, and there's so much has been said and is being said that I don't need to rehash any of that. I don't want to speak for you necessarily, but it's great to have seen him enjoy the last 10 years of Marvel, and make it to that. Kidding. To make it to Infinity War and be and knowing where they're going from here, knowing that wasn't going to be the end, as a culminative event as it was, to know, oh my God, but Spider-Man will go on and on for the next 100 years, it's all, the future is secure. And then the fact that was really cool to see. Once his wife passed, I knew it was only a matter of time. They were very close, and there's always that sort of notion that with an elderly couple that's been together so long, when one goes, it's not long, before the other usually goes to. It's just say what you will about that. But I just wanted to make sure that was acknowledged on this episode whenever you're listening to it. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add.
No, I've appreciated seeing others, tributes and like a lot of Instagram posts of people with pictures of him, which puts it in my mind that he was so accessible, which is just a really cool thing for a guy of that stature to be. I saw him at a couple of Comic Cons. I don't have a picture with him, but I remember just seeing him in the flesh, 10 feet away from me or whatever. And what can you say about the guy?
The energy and the stamina, I don't know how the hell he pulled that off. To be so accessible and to never, at least in public, to never have a dour attitude about it. To always be on. There's a showmanship, I think, kind of bred into a lot of those guys of that era that is there's some old country music guys too. Back when I was living in Nashville, I would be at the backstage at the Grand Ole Opry. You see some of these guys like Bill Anderson roll in, and they'd be all like, "Hey, what's going on?" And then they'd go backstage and shut the door. 20 minutes later, emerge like with their spangly Manuel jackets and perfectly coiffed hair. And it's like, "Hello, everybody, here I am." And it's just like that did not stop until they went back to that dressing room and shut the door. And it was like that was there was no break in that for like hours and hours. I just always marveled at that. So I think there's definitely something to be said about people, entertainment, people kind of brought up in that time.
I don't. So I guess before a little behind the scenes for you, for you, Taylor, not we. I almost picked. I was sort of back and forth on doing Shirtless because I knew this episode would come out before my book club met, and I didn't necessarily want anyone who would listen to the podcast and be at the book club to hear me just ramble and about it for however long I did before we talked about it as a group. But I almost picked, and now that Stan has passed, I should do this. I have a Stan Lee Imagines Catwoman story.
What? That happened?
And I think it was when I don't know all the business in and outs, but I think it was when he had left Marvel and he was trying his, whatever he was doing at the time. And because didn't he have like sort of a Steve Jobs, like, next sort of project?
Yeah, you're right.
I think it was around that time, and DC hired him to do like a what if story, or whatever DC calls it, Elseworlds or something. And to do Catwoman, and I'll do it sometime because it's not worth me like spoiling or giving my comments now. So but I almost picked it, and this was before Stan passed away, so I didn't even know the significance. I just thought like, oh yeah, that'd be a good one to do on the show sometime. So now I should definitely do it.
Was it a book? I mean, was it Halle Berry as Catwoman? Is that
no?
He was describing that. One day I'll describe the worst movie ever made.
I'm pretty sure she's still Selena Kyle. Yeah, it's so interesting and it's so Stan. I think that's the great part about it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'll leave that. But anyway, where could people find us if they want to listen to more of myself rambling and you being slightly more organized?
Well, as I told my local comic shop recently, you can find us wherever you find podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Pocket Casts, Stitcher, etc. Just search for Panelism. And if for some weird reason that still doesn't come up, put in by Todd and Taylor. But Panelism should work. There's only one of us. And you can also find us at Panelism. Inc. I almost merged it with our former URL. I was like, Panelism Us. Panelism.inc. That is on Instagram. That is the website address as well. And tell your friends if you like this. Suggest a book. We'll think about reviewing it. Tell your friends if you liked it. Help spread the word. It always helps in the end.
Absolutely. Thanks for talking to me about Shirtless Bear Fighter.
I can't wait to get that. Great pick, sir. We'll talk to you next time, and I'll have a book.
All right.